38 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro. Mr.
Andre the
Pro
Giant.
gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
his opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Welcome into another edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, I am David Fine, alongside my tag team partner, my brother from another mother, the true Long Island IZ, the hell with Alex G, the hell with Zack Ryder.
Gee, thanks, you dick.
Well, I mean, Alex, last week, SummerSlam 1995. This week, Bash at the Beach, 1996. In your honest opinion, have we gone up, down, or are we kind of going sideways in our choices of pay-per-views to talk about?
Now, this being Bash at the Beach 1996, it is the most important pay-per-view in the history of WCW. Now, it might be the most important pay-per-view in WCW's history, including the Jim Crockett stuff. So this is a very important pay-per-view.
You really think that?
Yeah, 100%. Number 2, I've been to the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, and they have a picture of Hulk Hogan in the hallway. Like with all the great acts that came through there, yeah, Hulk Hogan's on that.
That is rather weird, but I mean, it of course took place July the 7th, 1996, like you said, Daytona Beach, the Ocean Center. 8,300 are in attendance for this fine pay-per-view. Before we get started and kind of tear this thing down, what would you, I mean, before we start talking about it and start digging, what would you give it between a 1 and a 6, 9, 10? What would you give it? If like you say, on paper, how does the pay-per-view look?
It's a 69 is what I would consider it. This is typical WCW, 100%. There is nothing on the planet that's more WCW than this show.
I don't know what the hell does that mean? It's no. Who was booking this shit? I mean, literally, who was booking this shit?
Kevin Sullivan,
the Games Master, the Evil Man, the man who
Taskmaster,
whatever. I love Kevin Sullivan, but I love him in Florida. I mean, he did great shit in Florida. But
I will defend the Dungeon of Doom.
You will defend the Dungeon of Doom?
I am a Dungeon of Doom apologist.
Can you tell me, before we start talking about this pay-per-view, when you say you're an apologist, like you say you're a Doom apologist, you're a Mark Miro apologist, you're
Lex Luger, you can do it there.
When
we talk about Kevin Nash, a Kevin Nash apologist.
You're a Vince Russo apologist too.
No, that's going too far. That's a step too far.
What do you mean by that?
It's real simple. A lot of people fucking rag on these motherfuckers, and they're like, "Hey guys, they weren't so bad."
Yeah, yeah. Let's just kind of, since I'm sure, back in the day.
I need you to shut the fuck up. Here's the deal with this show. I'll tell you.
Did you tell me to shut the fuck up?
I did, and you deserve it. This is typical WCW. But first, we have to talk about Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Now, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall make their re-debut a couple of weeks earlier. This is their first actual match in ring back in WCW. So here's the thing about Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Now, Kevin Nash being one of, probably, to be completely honest, maybe the biggest star, can we say that came out of the power plant?
Yeah.
So he's WCW through and through, trained in the whole nine. Now, Scott Hall's been around for a long time, since 1984. He was supposed to be on Starrcade 84. Wasn't on Starrcade 84. But that goes without saying. Former AWA tag team champion with his good friend Kurt Hennig. Spent a lot of time throughout the territories in the 80s. But it wasn't until like 1991, 92 that it started to come together for Scott Hall. Now, both of these gentlemen were in WCW prior to this. Now, there's some people that may know this, and some people that may not know this. Now, Kevin Nash had been one half of the Master Blasters. That was lame. He was one half of, well, not even one half. Well, he was kind of one half of Oz, because he was with Kevin Sullivan as the Wizard. It was weird. So he was Oz. He was a Master Blaster. Then he was Vinny Vegas. Vinny Vegas was pretty good, but again, he was a lower mid-card heel, hanging out with DDP and Scotty Flamingo. Ridiculous, right? Scott Hall eventually gets it all together, becomes the Diamond Stud, who ends up to being a lackey for DDP. Again, lower mid-card heel. Now, in terms of Kevin Nash, you see Kevin Nash, legitimately almost 7 feet. Good look, pretty good charisma. He's working the ring. He can have good matches with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. But Kevin Nash, much like El Gigante, The Big Show, Ryback, Ted Arcidi, Bill Kazmaier, so on and so forth, Sid Vicious, he is main event or bust. Which means, like, if you look at Kevin Nash, there's no way he should be on second match wrestling Brad Armstrong. Just not going to happen. He's either be a main eventer or he's going to be out of your company. And, WCW misused him. So, there you go. Lower mid-card heel in WCW. Ridiculous. Eventually he goes off to WWF and becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. Jesus Christ. You have Scott Hall, fantastic worker. Once he changed his look from that big Scott Hall, that Magnum Scott Hall, or that Gator Scott Hall, he got the stubble, he has the black hair, looking good, has a hell of a finisher in the Raging Edge. Again, in WCW, lower mid-card heel, had a couple of matches with Tom Zink. Goes to WWF, and right off the bat, guess what? He's feuding with Randy Savage.
Yeah,
fucking phenomenal, right? Then he's having 5-star matches. Could anyone in 1986 predict that Scott Hall was having 5-star matches?
Yeah, I did.
No, shut the fuck up. You did not predict that. By the time he gets to WWF, he's having 5-star matches with Shawn Michaels. So they have their little run in WWF, and now they're back in WCW as huge stars, where, in fact, if WCW had booked them properly from begin with, they could have had some homegrown talent here at the top of their card instead of investing a lot of money in former WWF talent. But they didn't, and now they're back. So we're going to start there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this card, there are a lot of matches on this card that were on main event. So you had to watch main event to see the great Steiner brothers taking on Harlem Heat.
That was a really good match, though.
Bobby,
5 minutes goes DQ, but very fun match. Love Sister Sherry, by the way.
Yeah,
she's all the way live.
Yeah, I mean, and then Colonel Robert Park, you've heard rumors about his. Anyway.
His penis being ginormous?
No, I was.
I've never seen Robert Parker's penis.
I've heard rumors on the indie circuit that it's rather large.
Rumors, my ass. You've watched him in the shower. I don't know what your problem is. Stop being a peeping Tom.
Hey, I mean, he said I would get ahead in the business if I watched him in the shower. I mean,
he said you're going to get some head in the business. That's what he said.
And look at me now. I'm on a podcast with the great Alex G. God, my life is just complete.
Hang out with Terry Garvin and Pat Patterson. You're one of the few graduates of the Terry Garvin School of Self-Defense, by the way. They specialize in go-behinds.
Well, I love the old reach around, but it was funny, of course. They did not have two great wrestlers on this pay-per-view. They didn't have Lord Steven Regal and Eddie Guerrero. They had
That's a hell of a match too. I mean, it's very short though. If you ever, go back and watch your main events, especially if you're going to watch these WCW pay-per-views. And they have to do a lot of pre-shows on the main event, which is the Sunday afternoon show, I guess you would call it. Do yourself a favor and watch some of these matches. They're really good. You also have the Rock and Roll Express versus Fire and Ice, which is Ice Train, my favorite wrestler, and Scott Norton, which is, it's a lot of fun. Again, a good way to warm up the crowd. Again, this card in total, including the main event matches, 14 matches long. It's like a WWF pay-per-view in 1989. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's kind of like as many matches as they have on the WWE. It's actually about as many matches that they had for the Starrcade show that was just here in the Atlanta.
Did you watch that trash?
I did not. I was actually going to go to the pay-per-view, but I ended up not being able to go. But yeah, did you watch any of the? Did you watch the 2 matches or 3 matches or whatever the hell the 2 matches in the?
Last year's was trash. So again, I'm not going to hate watch wrestling. It's not going to be. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, but the good thing is the first match that you actually saw on this pay-per-view is Rey Mysterio taking on Psychosis. I mean, 2 great wrestlers. I mean. Hell, Rey Mysterio Jr. still going today. I mean, it's 2019. I mean, what were your thoughts on this, match? It's not the first match that the people in the arena sees, but it's the first match that you see on the pay-per-view.
Again, when I talk about prototypical WCW, this is the ridiculousness of WCW in total. We have a fantastic international Lucha Libre match to start off the show here, followed by Earthquake taking on Big Boss Man. That's the ridiculousness of WCW. You have these pseudo dream matches. You have these guys from all around the world. It would be Japan, it would be Mexico in terms of this case, and it kind of had this weird kind of concoction here, and that's what made WCW great at the time. Now, Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis, again, this is a match that we've seen on ECW, and these guys went around everywhere with this match. Again, a phenomenal match. Rey Mysterio. This is before he gets extra big, if you know what I mean. This is before all the injuries. Psychosis is out there doing his thing. Again, this is a phenomenal match. It goes 15 minutes of just wall-to-wall action. It's fucking fantastic. Again, this is why I love WCW. This match in particular.
I mean, it was a great match to open up the card, but I mean, it's funny you're talking about the next match we had John Tenta, Big Bubba Rogers. It wasn't just a regular match. It was a Carson City Silver Dollar match.
You ever been to Carson City?
No. Have you?
No.
Where the hell is
Carson City? Is that near Las Vegas? Like, it's not even near this fucking, like, Daytona Beach. Like, why can't this be like Daytona Beach Silver Dollar match? Like, anyone's going to know the fucking difference.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, Kevin Sullivan was booking this shit, so, I mean, I don't know. He wanted out.
It's funny, like, if you look at Earthquake versus Bossman, in 1990... Like, this was even a fucking dope match. Now, just picture Earthquake versus Bossman in WWF 1990. It would have been really good. Again, John Tenta, criminally underrated. He could have made a really good babyface WWF champion. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. He was over in the National Disasters. And Bossman, Big Bossman didn't give a shit. He's taking fucking superplexes up top of cages from Hulk Hogan. It's fucking amazing. The problem with this match is that it's 1996 and not 1990. And John Tenta is at the end of his run here. Big Bubba is not long for this world. He's not really out there having classic match, although he would return to form once he went back to WWF. But again, this is the whole thing where, John Tenta was thrown out of the Dungeon of Doom. He first started out being Avalanche, then he was Shark, and then he's just a man, John Tenta. He's not a fish. He's a man. And then Big Bubba, shaved his mustache and shit. And this is a pretty big feud in terms of the Dungeon of Doom here. But again, as we can see, everything is about to change.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Bubba Rogers fan back, and I wasn't even a real big Bossman fan because, when
Bossman lost the weight, he got really slim, around 90, 91. He's having phenomenal matches. That WrestleMania 7 match with Perfect is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good as Big Bubba Rogers back in the NWA, but like you said, he had lost a lot of weight in the early 90s, so he was lighter on his feet. I mean, and that match with Perfect was I can say was actually a really good match. I can't wait to talk about that. It's just,
we did on our very first show, you motherfucker.
We're going to talk about it again, maybe. I don't know. You never know. I like to have amnesia, but the next match
we have anal? Is what you said?
No, I did not say that. The next match, of course, is another freaking gimmick match, a tape fist match.
They went heavy on the gimmicks here because they had a gimmick inside of a gimmick inside of a gimmick, which is really weird.
Our friend Hacksaw Jim Duggan taking on Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, there was this
DDP.
weird angle when Jim Duggan went back to his roots, like in Ireland, and they figured out like his grandmommy was like a tape fish fucking champion and shit. So he would do this thing where he would tape up his fist and punch people in the face. Now this was for, I believe this was for the Lord of the Ring,
Yeah.
which is odd because I think AEW is bringing back the ring concept, which is very much a Dusty Rhodes type concept.
Yeah, and I mean, and speaking of, kind of Dusty Rhodes' concepts, I mean, as you know, Cody is trying to, he's trademarked, copyrighted a lot of the Dusty ideas. They're bringing Bash to the Beach back for one of their shows. I mean, do you think that is something that the fans will get into, that are the older fans or the newer fans of AEW, to get kind of the old school feel? I mean, if he can get any of the stuff, I mean, if he could ever get Starrcade, which I don't think he'll ever be able to get. I mean, do you think it's something that the fans would get behind?
I think there's an appeal there, especially for the more gimmicky type names. Like Bash's Beach is a really good name. And WCW always did well with it. They always had it like in the beach setting. It was really cool the way that they done it in the past. And you can make an argument that Bash to the Beach, top 4 WCW pay-per-view, maybe top 5. Again, you had Hogan's debut on Bash to the Beach. You had, the big angle at the end of this show at Bash to the Beach. You had a lot of things going on at this pay-per-view. But I always like the concept. Now, the one they need to get, in all honesty, is Halloween Havoc. Because everyone loved Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, spin the wheel, make the deal.
And the wheel make the deal.
I mean,
Can you talk about how DDP was a jobber and kind of really worked his way up to literally the main event? Like, he was a shitty wrestler for a very long time.
And he was a shitty manager.
Manager. Like, he was awful forever. And then all of a sudden, like, I guess, like, the light bulb went on, the switch went on, and, like, you start getting behind him, and he's, like, the people's champion, and he has the diamond cutter, which really helps. And by the end of WCW, he's like top guy. It's like an amazing transformation if you start from like 1991 Dallas Page and you look at like 2000 Dallas Page. Like, it took him a long time to get there, but
I mean, and just think, I mean, where he started. I mean, he became champion. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, I did not think that, and of course,
it's a hell of a story. Unfortunately, WCW was not able to tell that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's WCW, especially the later WCW. They couldn't tell that, hey, listen, this guy was literally on first matches, like, being awful, And then all of a sudden he's having these matches with, like, Johnny B. Bad that are really fucking good, like, really out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I hark back to, I think it was when he first started. It was maybe he was been there for a minute. I was actually driving downtown Atlanta, and they were taping an angle with him when he did the whole homeless kind of losing all his money gimmick, and he was begging for money. It was, I mean, he has come a long way. I mean, he's still not really wrestling, but he's still involved in AEW. You see him all the time. He was on the last TV show, the last taping last week, and he's definitely still got his hand in that wrestling water. But yeah, I mean, he is.
It's those guys that we get behind. It's those guys that we can follow from start to finish. That we can really like. I'll give you another example, like Bret the Hitman Hart. We saw him when he debuted in WWF as just single Bret Hart, and then the incarnation of the Hart Foundation, and then IC champion, and then world champion. Even like with Shawn Michaels, we saw the progression, and unfortunately nowadays, with the way modern booking is kind of gone, is like the time is very short in terms of like, hey, listen, this guy debuts and he's a champion like in 8 months, like Sheamus or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And you don't really get behind those guys, and you're not invested into these guys, and then eventually they win the championship so early, and now guess what? Now they're stuck in the mid card for fucking ever. So we don't see a progression. What I got like DDP, we literally we took that journey with him from the opening match to the main event, and it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, man. And I mean, he was in a tape fist match with Mr. Tough Guy, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I mean,
Duggan at the time was a pretty substantial star. I mean, yeah, his run is coming to a close here. And he's already been in WCW for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. But I think people forget that Duggan was like number 2 babyface to Hogan in WWF. Like, he was up there on the card.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys, and folks, if you go over on our Twitter page, it's the RW Rewind. That's of course our website as well, the rwrewind.com. But go on Twitter. I'm gonna have a poll up there today. It's up there right now. Who would you want us, Alex G, and anybody else that comes on the program, to go in depth? Like a Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was,
Duggan.
He maybe not Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but like a DDP, kind of like chronological and talk about his career. Or I was watching a YouTube video of a young Roddy Piper whenever he first got into the business. I mean, or Ric Flair, or anybody, whoever you would want us to do kind of a special, kind of like an in-depth look at their career. Just hit us up on Twitter at the RW Rewind. And speaking of Twitter, I mean, I have been watching, and I must admit my wife has kind of gotten addicted to it, and I've kind of had to tell her to tone it down, watching it up on that 100-inch TV in our living room. Your YouTube channel, I mean, it is awesome. And if anybody wants to, to get on that train, that bandwagon of your retro video games channel, how can they get there, and how can they follow you on Twitter?
What you want to do, you want to go to Retro Wrestling Games Presents on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We have about 350 some odd videos. There's gonna be something on there, like 100% guaranteed. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure that you leave a comment, even if it's a negative comment. I like those. Those are fun. I can tell you how stupid you are. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, check out the videos. They're really good. We did the latest NWA 1984 project just dropped, like a week ago. So check that out. A buzz about that. So really good stuff.
Is there any? I mean, I guess did y'all talked on the whole Cornette situation? So it's like
we talked Cornette, we talked CM Punk, we talked some AAA. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean the whole Jim Cornette thing is just kind of dying down. But of course Dave Marquez, he's big Mr. NWA guy. He kind of not defended Jim Cornette, but he just re-up on his Facebook page. He kind of he just kind of goes into explains Jim Cornette. So just look him up on Facebook, and it's kind of dying down. I mean they've taped all the episodes, and he's not gonna.
Unfortunately for the NWA, they did a recap show right after this.
Yeah, it was.
Again, the views went way down. Again, there's a lot of people who they were in a really bad spot because essentially what happened is that you went out of your way to alienate your current fan base to appease a fan base that doesn't even watch your show. So now no one's going to watch your show.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me because the guys on there work so hard. They have some really good stuff on there. They do a little bit too much of the parody type stuff, and I wish they wouldn't do that. If you want to see old school wrestling parody, you can watch what they did on Impact not too long ago, which is weird and stupid. They shouldn't do that no more. You want to be inspired by history. You don't want to parody history.
Yeah,
That's the danger of what they're doing is that they can turn into parody really easily.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do not want to go down that rabbit hole that Impact has gone down. I mean, I think the only thing good about Impact right now is Tessa Blanchard.
I would agree, 100%. And Brian Cage.
Yeah, I mean, he's a freak of fucking nature. I mean,
I don't know why he's not WWE champion right now.
You know why he's not WWE champion? Because he doesn't work for WWE. They don't want him. I don't think.
I would sign him to AEW. I would sign him to my backyard Fed. I would sign him if I had $1 million. Just give it to him.
I'm sure your wife would really like that. If you had $1 million, just give it to some random guy who.
Just so I could oil him up, yeah, 100%, dude.
I mean, I don't judge. I don't judge, but it's speaking of things we're gonna judge. Next match, the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs, Jerry Sags, taking on Public Enemy, Rocco Rock, and Johnny Grunge in a double dog collar match. Once again, another gimmick match.
Was Public Enemy? I think Public Enemy was the first real ECW act, quote unquote, or ECW creation to burst on the mainstream scene here. And unfortunately for Public Enemy, I really loved Public Enemy in ECW. I thought they were fucking phenomenal. I think what happened once they went to WCW and more so the WWF is that they got exposed. They got exposed as a Paul Heyman creation more than all these guys are fantastic workers. Rocco Rock was okay. Johnny Grunge, not so much, unfortunately. Like, they would have good matches with the Nasty Boys. Like, I would have liked to see this match in ECW, not WCW. Like, this one. I'm surprised the Nasties never went over there. Like, that's like, they would have been super over in ECW if they would have won. But this is a fun match, and it's violence by design, naughty by nature, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's a fun match. Again, the Nasties, like, their hardcore wrestling is so fucking like sloppy and dangerous to a certain degree that it makes it very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean,
like, who doesn't like the Nasty Boys, really?
yeah, I'm a big Nasty fan. I mean, I love the Nasty Boys. I mean, they were great.
Like, their best match may have been that match with the Steiners at the Halloween Havoc. Like, that might have been their best, like, in-ring performance. But they had a good run in WWF for a while. You know, they had a good run here in WCW. Like, I know Brian Knobbs is like, oh, like, he's a Hogan stooge or whatever, and Jerry Sags can be very annoying to people, but they're fucking Nasty Boys. Of course they are. The fuck do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they were great. I mean, they were, you know, former tag team champions in multiple, you know, promotions. I mean, it was
like, I would put them in the Hall of Fame. I don't think, like, they're not in any Hall of Fames.
No.
And I think the Nasty Boys deserve, at the very least, a WWE Hall of Fame. Just to see them on stages with live mics would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, especially in 2019. I mean, you know, getting them on a live mic. But, you know,
the Nasty Boys for WWE Hall of Fame. Hashtag.
Hey, we're gonna get that started, and it's gonna. Yeah, I bet you 2020, 2021, people are gonna listen to this and be like, "Hey, let's get the Nasty Boys in the WWE Hall of Fame."
Yeah, Coco Beware in there. Oh, come on, guys.
No, the next match.
They do that. Coco Beware is currently in the WWE Hall of Fame. Why not the Nasty Boys?
So isn't Hacksaw Jim Duggan in there?
Jim Duggan's in there. I think he's more deserving because he was a top of the card act for a while.
Yeah. You know, speaking of top of the act person who is currently working for AEW, Dean Malenko.
Talk about Disco Inferno.
Taking on Disco.
Don't let Disco Inferno book anything, ever.
Wait. Time out. Are you not a Disco Inferno fan?
No, he's a fucking goof.
Why? I mean,
I haven't met Disco in person.
So,
Still a goof.
No, I mean, I worked with him on many a independent show here in Georgia. Yeah, I mean, he's a jack off. I mean, well, I don't know what he does on his free time.
If you go in the dictionary and you look up the word tool, it's fucking Glenn Gilberti. Like, there should be a picture of him right next to it. Because he's a tool. I mean, that's the way it is, and that's the way he is. And you kind of like, oh, okay, it's just Disco being Disco. You know what I mean? Oh, Disco's getting heat on Twitter because he slags on women's wrestling. Or Disco gets heat on Twitter because his ideas include building the evil architect or the Invisible Man or alien invasions, like that kind of shit, right? That's what he likes, and that's what that's why you never have him in the booking group at all, ever. You just keep him away.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. He's a good gimmick wrestler. I mean,
I liked him like. You know when Disco was his best? When he was part of the Filthy Animals.
Yeah.
With Konnan, and they changed his name from Disco Inferno to Disco, like Cisco, the singer. I thought that was fun. But that's about it. That's the only one I really liked of his.
Yeah, I mean...
and when he tag team with Alex Wright.
Das Wunderkind.
Yeah, I mean, your favorite
He
wrestler.
he should be in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame. He should also be in the Hall of Fame, but that's beside the point. There's not much more to say about this match. I mean,
it's for the WCW Cruiserweight title. You know, you have Dean Malenko in his prime here carrying Disco to a decent match. You know, I'd much rather see Dean Malenko versus Ultimo Dragon or something. I wish that was on this show.
I'd rather see Dean Malenko versus anybody besides Disco Inferno.
Where's Chris Jericho?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He's not on this card. I don't know where La Champion is, but
I don't know if he's in. He might be not in yet.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's kind of funny, you know.
We have Dean Malenko, like super like smart mark guys love Dean Malenko, big guy in the sheets, whole nine. And then you have Disco Inferno, right? Which is like this is a freak show match, right? It's like we would have, it's so WCW. We have like this great worker he's capable of having 5-star matches any night of the week, and he's in the ring here with Disco Inferno. Like, this is so WCW.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's ridiculous in a good way. When I say ridiculous, it's like it makes you smile because it's so ridiculous.
I mean, speaking of ridiculous wrestlers,
Joe Gomez?
No. Joe Gomez is, I mean, he's Joe Gomez, but Steve Mongo fucking McMichael with Queen Deborah, really? Steve McMichael, really? I mean, he was a terrible. He was a terrible announcer. I mean, I guess he was an okay football player. I don't know.
He's a fucking Hall of Fame fucking football player.
I mean, hey, anybody. I mean, you get enough votes, I guess you can be in the Hall of Fame. So, but that's whatever. I mean, but
even Michael was cool because you were able to bring in what's his name, the guy from the Packers, and then he went to Carolina. I forget his name.
I don't know. I'm not a foosball man, so I don't know.
Yeah, because you're ridiculous.
I mean, yes, I'm ridiculous.
Can we just say that Deborah has some nice titties and move on?
Yes, she has some nice puppies as
I know she got divorced from Steve Austin because she was beating her too much, but whatever.
Hey, I mean,
allegedly
she deserved it, but I don't know.
Do you think she had pepperoni nipples?
I'm sure she did. I mean,
we never found out because she never, and she always looked like she was 40. Like she always looked like a MILF. Like she looked like a MILF in 1996. I don't know if it was from she looked older than what she didn't look bad, but she looked older than what she was.
Yeah, I mean, she
was in her 40s in 1996.
Like they say, they all saying she was rode hard, put away wet. So just
that's a good one.
I mean, yeah, that's what my wife says that all the time about people, but that's beside the point.
But yeah, pepperoni nipples.
Hashtag pepperoni nipples. Speaking of two really good-looking woman, Miss Elizabeth, they were with the Nature Boy Ric Flair as he took on Konnan. He was the current U.S. champion. This match was for the title. I mean, Ric Flair
versus Konnan. If you think about it, like on paper, sounds fucking amazing.
What the fuck? I mean, okay, on paper, does everything look good on paper to you?
Well, yeah, I can write down the greatest wrestling card of all time on paper, and have it be shit in execution. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by that. Like, if this was 1993 and Konnan's like one of the top stars of Mexico, the top star, the Mexican Hulk Hogan, and this would have been in L.A., they would have sold out 50,000 seat arena easily for Ric Flair versus Konnan. Unfortunately, this is 1996. Unfortunately, Ric Flair doesn't really have great matches with luchadors. And unfortunately, Konnan has not changed his style yet from a lucha libre style to American, I guess, a Western American style yet. So we have this match. And then we have Ric Flair wins the United States Heavyweight Championship, which he hasn't held since fucking the Mid-Atlantic days, which is, again, ridiculous all on its own.
I mean, it's Ric Flair. I mean, of course, he can hold any title, make it.
Next, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it
seems weird. I mean, he does drop it to Eddie Guerrero, which is weird. But again, typical WCW type stuff.
Yeah,
Ric Flair versus Konnan, 1996 at Bash at the Beach. Second from the top.
Yeah, it's
Konnan was fucking jacked. Like, he would get smaller when he became a cholo, and then in the Dungeon of Doom and such. But Konnan was pretty fucking big. Like, he was a big fucking dude.
Yeah, he was.
He was always a little sloppy though with his work. But again, most luchadors, except for Rey Mysterio, tend to be a little sloppy. If you watch AAA, I just recently watched a AAA pay-per-view, and they get a lot of air. There's a lot of misses on that show, and it gets a little sloppy. Konnan becomes a better, I guess, American type wrestler later on. Again, when he becomes a gangster and such, but. At this point, he's still transitioning from that, and he's still, very much working in lucha libre style, and that really doesn't really jive much, really well with Flair and his, late 70s, early 80s wrestling style that he had. So again, it's just, you would think this would be a fucking fantastic match on paper, but again, in execution, maybe maybe it shouldn't have gotten 16 minutes.
No, I mean, it definitely should not have.
When did Flair get the facelift? Is this year, right? No, maybe it's the following year when he gets his head shredded with the fucking cage, but he gets like plastic surgery like within the next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's
shoulder injury.
Yeah, I mean, I got a question for you. I'm kind of gonna go on, a little differently. We're gonna be getting away from the pay-per-view right now. Gonna be kind of talking about the shows that we're gonna be covering for the rest of the year. Of course, next week we have Royal Rumble 1994. Week after that, Survivor Series 88, Starrcade 90, WrestleMania 1, Survivor Series 89, and Spring Stampede 1994.
The 94 Stampede show is awesome. Austin versus Great Muta.
That will actually be our first show of the first or second show of the new year. I mean, what were your thoughts on the shows that we're going to be covering for the next couple of weeks before we end 2019 and go into 2020?
I like the concept of Rumble 94 because they really did something different with the finish of the Royal Rumble that year. Again, WrestleMania 1, again, what can we say about WrestleMania 1 that hasn't already been said 1,000 times? But trust me, I got some new shit, especially when it comes to Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. Again, when we look at these shows, they're fun encapsulations of the time. Again, you always should watch the TVs, before and a little bit after, get a really in-depth look at it. But I think, when you see like, hey, it's Steamboat versus Flair in 1994, and they're having 5-star matches again. And this is the last pay-per-view before Hogan's debut and how everything changes. And I'm a big fan personally of pre-Hogan, post-Bischoff WCW. Like, they were doing some really cool stuff. Then Hogan comes in, he brings all his buddies and what have you. It changes for a while. And they have some rough patches up until this particular show.
I mean, boy, folks, if that's not a tease to stay tuned for our the rest of the shows.
That's all I did was put the tip in.
Oh man, oh man. Moving on to our next match, we had the Giant and the Taskmaster taking on Double A Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit. And
Taskmaster in general, though.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of Double A Arn Anderson, have you? You probably haven't. Have you heard his new podcast called Arn?
I have not listened to Arn Anderson's podcast because I'm so behind on podcasts. Because I listen to them. I tried to listen. There's like 5 or 6 that I really enjoy. But again, I'm not looking for podcasts that are entertaining. And I like Conrad Thompson's podcast. They're really funny and they're heavy on the shtick, right? I don't necessarily learn anything new from those, though.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to expand my wrestling knowledge here. And so I just choose to go in a different direction in terms of my podcast where, in some cases they may be a little bit more boring or, maybe a little bit less dramatic or maybe not have the well-known wrestlers on the shows, but I'm learning more about what happened during a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Arn's, he's definitely
the only Anderson fucking podcast to be all for it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be doing that. I don't think his health is doing.
He's not long for this world.
No, he's not long for this world, literally and figuratively. But the Arn podcast, it's kind of hard to listen to. Great stories, but he's got that kind of raspy voice now.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of hard to listen to.
Not for nothing, guys. Why is he not the authority figure for AEW? Like, why can't he be like the commissioner or vice president or something? Like, let him do something on TV because he still can fucking talk really, really good. He's had that thing with Tosh.0, whatever, 2.0, 3.0. I don't know who that fucking motherfucker is. Fuck that guy. But, Arn is relevant. Let Arn make these decisions. Let him be the point person. You can say Tony Khan had put Arn Anderson in charge of AEW and call that a day.
Yeah,
you don't have stupid shit like the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes have to do these press conferences out of character.
Yeah, it is just kind of weird, but I was not a fan of the Giant.
You didn't like Paul White?
No, I'm not even a Big Show fan. I'm
not a Big Show fan either. I thought the name was stupid when they brought him over.
Yeah,
like I'd much rather to have him be called Paul White than the Big Show. I thought the name was stupid. He made a hell of a debut though in the WWF. But the Giant who wins literally the world title in his first match or second match, ridiculous. Yeah. He was super green, but he was learning. And again, another guy that's main event or bust. Like, what do you do with him? He ain't gonna be on opening matches with Flying Brian, that's for sure.
Yep,
main event or bust.
I mean, but there's not much to say about this match. I mean, it has.
No, I mean, you have the Kevin Sullivan Benoit stuff going on here, which is uncomfortable to talk about from time to time.
Yeah.
I think I Respect You, Booker Man was the pay-per-view before this, so we'll talk about that when we get to it.
I mean, and
maybe I think the pay-per-view before this was the Falls Count Anywhere match with Sullivan and Benoit.
Yeah, I mean, in your opinion, because with the whole Chris Benoit situation and what happened with him and his wife and his kid, and he killed them all and then killed himself. I mean, it's sometimes hard to watch his matches, knowing the outcome of his life, knowing that he had such great talent, such great potential, and I mean, you can cheer for it, but then you're like. Yeah.
Here's the thing when it comes to Benoit. I don't know if I spoke about this on this particular show, but I might as well talk about it right now. From I guess 1999, 98 up until his death, Chris Benoit was my favorite wrestler. My number one guy. I was in Madison Square Garden, ringside, when he wins the WWF Championship or World Heavyweight Championship. And what you don't see on that show, WrestleMania 20, is the post-match celebration with Daniel and Nancy running out to the ring and celebrating with Chris in the ring. And I'm sitting inside for this. I'm watching this, right? And Chris Benoit was my guy, 100%. My favorite wrestler. I used to watch his DVD, Hard Knocks, the Chris Benoit story, all the time. My favorite wrestler. So when this goes down, when this tragedy happened, it really just ripped me apart. It tore me up inside very bad because I'm literally watching this in real time. This is when this is when the wrestling websites or we're getting live reports. Literally, I'm having Wikipedia being changed in real time in front of my face. And then they do the Benoit tribute show. And then all the rest of the information comes out right after the show. At that point was the last point or the last era where I watched professional wrestling regularly, every week. I watched just about every Monday Night Raw, with a couple exceptions, weekly, every single week. Since 1993. I watched every Nitro up until its demise. But I watched every Raw, just about. A couple exceptions here and there, especially when it gets to 1994 WWF. But regularly, watch wrestling every week up until that point. After that, I stopped watching wrestling regularly on television.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, do you think, they, like you said, they had the tragedy, then they had the tribute show on Raw. Do you think they would have, if they'd known the information, do you think they would have just, I mean, you can't really gloss over his death, of him passing and doing a tribute, but do you think they would have done anything, or do you think they would have just kind of gone on with the show?
They did a tribute. They did a tribute show. They should have not. They should have ran a repeat or something
Yeah.
They should have done anything.
Yep.
You come up with a statement in the very next Raw. Vince makes a statement, and then you move on. But here's the thing, too. I think a lot of people forget about that weekend. Sherry had just died, too. Sensational Sherry had just passed away. And they just did Vince McMahon's death that same week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where he got blown up in the limo. And not for nothing, WWF at the time were it was really bad. It was people bitch about it now. At that time, there was nothing worse than WWE during that time. It was you had Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon taking on Shawn Michaels and God. It was really, really bad. It was really fucking bad around that era. And it's just I couldn't watch it anymore. It was it. It was over. I tried to catch because my second favorite wrestler at the time was CM Punk, and he was starting to rise to the ranks here. So we were checking out what Punk was doing, but in terms of watching entire shows regularly week after week, that stopped at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
It's never been the same. It makes watching Benoit matches extremely difficult. Now, a lot of people will fucking make jokes or don't take it serious, but there's a lot of wrestling fans that, we're 2019 at this point, that came after, Benoit. You started watching wrestling regularly after Benoit. It's something that my fandom was changed forever at that point, and it's never been the same.
I'm glad that you got back into the sport, so we can talk about it each week and kind of reminisce about wrestling from 1976 to 2000 when it kind of shit canned.
So you should thank Ring of Honor for that.
Thank you, ROH.
Not Ring of Honor of 2019. I'm talking about Ring of Honor of like 2010.
Yeah. Now to the main event, 6-man tag match, the Outsiders.
And a mystery partner.
Who would that be? Versus Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Who do you think it was going to be? Did you have any? Did you just not have a guess?
I did not have a guess.
To
be honest with you, I'm kind of like you. I
thought it was Hogan. I'm sorry, no one thought it was Hogan. It was so out of left field.
I knew it was Hogan, but that's okay. No, this is a shoot, brother. It was
David Penner told you.
No, this was this is crap. No, this is actually the year before I actually worked for WCW. So this would not be if I had been there in 1996. I was there in '97. I could have had some insider information, but
boys didn't even know.
No, they did not.
Hogan didn't know until there's stories of Kevin Sullivan having to sleep on Hulk Hogan's couch to make sure he doesn't fucking change his mind about doing this, because he was 50-50 on this. Again, a lot of people were like, especially Hogan's agents and whatever, were like, "No, this is gonna kill you. Like, you're not gonna get your licensing, your merch money. Like, that's just all going in the toilet. Like, you're going to kill yourself." And a lot of people were pulling Hogan in the other direction, not doing that.
I mean, okay, we're just saying, what if Hulk Hogan did not come to WCW and do this? I mean, do you think it would have changed? It would have changed the course of WCW.
Yes, and yes.
Thank you, Danny Bryan.
There's two things. WCW would have went out of business a lot faster, and WWF would have also went out of business.
Really?
Yeah. Here's the reason why. If Hulk Hogan does not go to WCW, that means he stays in WWF. That means Vince was addicted to the Hulkster. That means anytime he got jammed up, he would go back to Hulk. So, Bret Hart's not drawing great, Hogan's going to beat him. Kevin Nash is not drawing great, Hogan's going to beat him. We're not sure about the Steve Austin guy, Hogan's going to beat him. You know what I mean? He would have just kept on going back to Hogan. It would have fucking killed the WWF. They had to get Hogan out of there. They needed to get Hogan out of there, or they were never going to survive, because Vince would have kept on going back to Hogan. And I can only imagine the politics that would have went on between Hogan and Shawn Michaels in 1996. It would have been a fucking train wreck.
I mean, it would have definitely been weird. I mean, now
for me, who did I think it was going to be? I thought it was going to be Bret Hart.
Really?
Yeah. Because the way it was always framed, that it was a WWF guy coming over. So it could have been, it could have been anyone that was, a lot of people thought it was Shawn Michaels. Again, this is 1996. I'm not reading The Observer. I'm reading PWI. So I don't know how wrestling contracts work or any of that shit. So to me, it could be just about anyone. And to me, it's they're going to bring in Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. Who's the next logical step? Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels? 100%. They didn't see Hogan coming. Now, what also thought possible was Lex Luger turning in the match, and because he just came from WWF. So it could have been Hogan turning on Savage and Sting. I didn't think it was going to be Savage. Some people thought it might have been Sting, but I didn't think so. No one. I'm talking about fans. I'm not talking about insiders. I'm talking about fans. No one, because Hogan's been gone. Hogan was gone for a while. We haven't seen him in a minute. So Hogan was on anyone's radar. They come down and do the turn. And heck, when he came out, I didn't think he was going to turn anyway. I thought he was going to come out and make the save and beat up the Outsiders. 1,000%. Heck, even after he dropped the leg on Savage, I'm like, oh shit, Savage was the third man, and Hogan dropped the leg on him because Hogan found out about the conspiracy and stopped it before it got started.
Boy,
And he
you,
starts with the Outsiders. I'm like, holy shit. My brain fucking exploded.
boy, you were just you were a
I was a whole maniac, 1,000%. So I never thought he was going to turn heel.
God, you drank that fucking Hulk Hogan juice. Holy shit.
I drank those fucking vitamins. Lock, stock, and fucking barrel.
God, you were, I mean, God, hook, line, and fucking sinker, buddy. I mean,
They made the greatest. They got so much fucking heat. You see the garbage get piled in the ring. A fan fucking jumps in the ring and gets fucking beaten up. Because fuck it, right? Might as well.
yeah, no, I mean, now that we've,
Phenomenal.
yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, there was a lot of shit in that ring. I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was
Like Hogan cuts out this promo that's really, really good. Mean Gene on top of his game, and then you basically have Scott Hall and then Kevin Nash mugging at the camera, which is fantastic.
yeah. I mean, it's one of. I mean, now that we've kind of looked at it, I mean, I give this show probably, I gave it about an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, again, I love it because it's so WCW, and if people want to say, "Who knows? What's WCW? What is WCW like?" Because I talked to a lot of people. Especially at my workplace and stuff, they started watching wrestling in like 2004. You know what I mean? Because it's 2019 now, guys. So we look at something from '96, it's like, oh, show me a show that's WCW through and through. I'm like, Bash the Beast, 1996.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I mean, it was a great pay per view. I mean, and the next, like I said, the next pay per view we're going to be covering is Royal Rumble 1994. I mean, I cannot wait to cover that next week. But it's funny. People have been asking me on Twitter. They say, David Fine, we've been following you on Twitter. We see you on Facebook. You have some brand new posters that that kind of talk about the podcast and tell everybody it's going to drop every Wednesday. We also got some new business cards. They ask, who in the hell did that? It's kind of funny that you asked me that. It's called Wrestle Rebrand. They're out of the United Kingdom. Steve over there at Wrestle Rebrand. If you want to follow them on Twitter, it's at Wrestle Rebrand. I mean, they do logos, banners, channel art, posters, T-shirts, and much more. I mean, they're gonna get our Twitter numbers up. They're gonna help us on our YouTube page. They're a great company. Just follow them on Twitter. You can get a free banner, a free logo. They're giving that away before, as they say in the United Kingdom, the 31st of December. It's December 31st. Just retweet them. Just follow them at Wrestle Rebrand. And you could maybe win a free banner and a logo before 2020 starts. I mean, hey, you don't need a new logo or new banner, do you?
No, but I do need I want to get my wife for Christmas this year a calendar of my
new husband.
The buff. So a new calendar of myself would be exceptional. So if anyone wants to draw pictures of me naked so I can give to my wife for Christmas, reach out to me on Twitter.
Oh, yes. I mean, and on that odd note, for the great Alex G, as always, I am David Fine. I cannot wait to see everyone back next week for another exciting edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, we'll talk to you in the past.
38 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Crow.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Ça quand même à aimer